With the strategic guidance of Elder Sarpong, Nashira managed to arrive at the royal palace, presenting herself as a stranded orphan in desperate need. The palace guards, initially hesitant, refused her entry. Unperturbed, Nashira sat at the gate, her tears catching the wind. Her cries reached the queen, who, moved by the sound, commanded the guards to allow the girl inside. As she was led into the majestic palace, Nashira's eyes met the queen's. Overwhelmed by the gravity of the moment, she prostrated herself before the queen, tears streaming down her face. Between sobs, Nashira spoke to the queen with heartfelt sincerity. "My parents have passed away back in my village, and my relatives, greedy for inheritance, seized everything we owned and sold me into slavery. Before my master passed away, he entrusted me with this ring, telling me it was my key to freedom. He advised me to return to my village, but I know they will just take the ring and sell me again. I have nowhere else to go, and I came here seeking refuge, hoping to serve you, my queen." The queen listened intently to Nashira's plea, her gaze softening at the sight of the innocent and distressed girl. Moved by her story and intrigued by the mystical golden ring, a symbol of favor and protection that seemed to radiate from Nashira, the queen declared, "From this day forward, you shall be as my own daughter." She instructed all servants and courtiers to treat Nashira with the respect due to a princess. Under the queen's protection, Nashira thrived, treated with kindness and given the freedom of the palace. She had access to all areas, including the vast library and the private properties. Nashira quickly became renowned throughout the palace for her wisdom and insightful knowledge. The king, impressed by her intelligence, grew fond of her and granted her every request. Her influence was palpable, and her presence at palace meetings soon became commonplace. During one such meeting, Nashira stood gracefully, catching the eye of the assembly before speaking. "My king," she began, her voice calm and clear, "what justice do we serve to those who force the poor from their land?" The king responded firmly, "If the land rightfully belongs to one, it must be returned, and the usurper imprisoned. If many lands are stolen, the thief's fate shall be even graver." Seizing the moment, Nashira turned to Elder Jan, a notable figure among the council. "Elder Jan, how many lands do you claim as your own?" The elder, taken aback by her direct questioning, stuttered in reply. "My princess, I possess 3 lands in different locations." "But the records show 8 lands under your name," Nashira countered smoothly, her gaze unwavering. The elder trembled, his voice faltering as he claimed, I bought them from their owners." Sensing the moment to unveil the truth, Nashira requested the king's permission to bring in the supposed sellers. As the true landowners were brought forth, they wept openly, recounting how Elder Jan had used threats and force to usurp their lands. The room fell silent, the air heavy with betrayal and shock. The king, visibly disturbed by these revelations, declared, "Based on our kingdom's laws, we must act." He then ordered the execution of Elder Jan for his crimes, upholding the principles of justice and fairness that governed their land. In the aftermath of the revelation about the seized lands, the king was deeply moved by Nashira's courage and astuteness. Recognizing her pivotal role in uncovering such grave injustices, he offered her any reward she desired. "My king," Nashira began, her voice steady yet charged with a deep underlying emotion, "there is but one wish I have. Allow me to be the executioner of Elder Jan." The king, taken aback by her request yet understanding the depth of her feelings, consented. "Your wish is granted," he solemnly declared. On the day of the execution, Nashira prepared herself, her resolve as sharp as the axe she carried. This was no ordinary axe. It was meticulously crafted by her own hands, dubbed the Axe of Vengeance. As she approached Elder John, who stood bound and defeated, she leaned in close enough for only him to hear. "When you meet my father in the ghostly realm, tell him Nashira has avenged him," she whispered, her voice a soft echo of wrath and resolution. With a swift, decisive motion, she brought the axe down, fulfilling her vow. The act was more than justice. It was a declaration, a closure for her and her father's tormented spirit. News of her deed spread like wildfire across the kingdom. To the commoners, Nashira was hailed as a reincarnation of her father, Awuah, a savior who fought for the downtrodden. However, within the palace walls and among the elders, she was viewed with fear and suspicion, a force more formidable than her late father had ever been. Alarmed by her growing influence and fearing for their own lands and power, the remaining elders hurriedly returned their ill-gotten properties to the rightful owners, hoping to escape Nashira's wrath. The queen, who had initially welcomed the orphaned girl into the palace, now harbored regrets. Nashira's presence had become a thorn in her side, and she schemed to find a reason to dismiss her. However, the king's favor towards Nashira was undeniable, making any direct action against her risky. The queen knew she needed to tread carefully, crafting a plan that would force the king's hand without implicating herself. A plan that would see Nashira removed from the palace under circumstances even the king could not contest. At a tense meeting, the queen and the elders discussed removing Nashira, who had become too influential. Elder Bafi, confident and cunning, assured the queen, "Leave this matter to me. It's a minor issue I can resolve." He then secretly enlisted his daughter, a cook in the palace, promising her a promotion if she succeeded in poisoning Nashira. During a palace gathering, the cook approached Nashira with a plate of food. However, as she neared, Nashira felt her mystical ring tighten painfully, a warning of imminent danger. Sensing the threat, she called for the guards. "Arrest her! She's trying to poison me!" The cook was brought to the palace meeting amidst chaos. Facing the king, Nashira accused, "She poisoned my food!" The cook denied everything, her face a mask of fear and denial. The king, seeking the truth, suggested, "If you are innocent, prove it. Eat from the plate." Elder Bafi, desperate to save his daughter, interjected, "Your Majesty, I trust my daughter completely. She would never do such a thing. Let me eat to prove her innocence." His words, though brave, were a ruse to prevent his daughter from revealing their plot by dying. Nashira, sharp and resolute, countered, "No, Elder Bafi. She must prove her innocence herself." As the cook hesitated, her hand trembling over the plate, Elder Bafi could bear no more. He broke down, confessing, "Stop, I cannot let my daughter suffer for my actions." He admitted to orchestrating the assassination. The palace erupted in murmurs of shock and betrayal. Nashira's clever handling of the situation not only saved her life, but also exposed the deep corruption within the palace, solidifying her reputation. The palace halls were shrouded in a heavy silence after Elder Bafi's confession. The queen and the remaining elders nervously wondered if Bafi would reveal their involvement, but he kept their secrets, taking sole blame. He and his daughter were found guilty of attempted murder, and a grim sentence was passed. They were to be executed publicly. Nashira, carrying her axe of vengeance, was to perform the execution. She decided Elder Bafi's daughter would face her fate first. As the young woman fell to Nashira's axe, Bafi was forced to endure the agony of watching his daughter die, a cruel mirror of the pain he had inflicted on Nashiraba's family. Leaning close to Bafi as she prepared to strike, Nashiraba whispered fiercely, "Tell my father, Mr. Awuah, in the afterlife, that his daughter avenges him and restores his honor." With those final words, she executed Bafi. The tale of that day spread quickly, with everyone praising Nashiraba's bravery and her relentless pursuit of justice. Her actions not only avenged her father, but also demonstrated her commitment to the law and righteousness. Recognizing her wisdom and courage, the king appointed Nashiraba as his chief advisor. She embraced her role wholeheartedly, engaging with the commoners, addressing their grievances, and ensuring that justice prevailed. Her popularity soared as she became a beacon of hope for many. However, her rising influence left the queen and the other elders restless at night, haunted by fears of their potential ruin. Nashiraba seemed untouchable, her integrity impeccable. The queen and the elders desperately plotted, wondering how they could possibly tarnish her unblemished reputation, as they perceived her as an unstoppable force, threatening their precarious positions. In the midst of palace intrigue and Nashiraba's rising influence, a poignant reminder of past injustices lingered. Elder Sarpong's children remained imprisoned, their mother having sadly passed away in captivity. Nashiraba, ever compassionate, visited them, offering words of hope. "Soon you will be free," she assured them softly, her promise a balm to their weary spirits. Meanwhile, the queen and the remaining elders, desperate to undermine Nashiraba, convened to hatch a plan to tarnish her impeccable reputation. Elder Kusi, clever and cunning, proposed a devious strategy. "We must consult the traditional fetish priest, the same one involved in Awuah's demise," he suggested with a sly grin. The group sought the priest's aid once more, and through his dark rituals, he discerned the source of Nashiraba's protection, her mystical ring. "This ring shields her," the priest revealed, his voice low and urgent. "Once removed, she will lose her power, her fame, and her favor." The queen recalled the day Nashiraba entered the palace, speaking of the ring's significance. The knowledge now seemed a key to their scheme. Yet, how to steal such a powerful artifact? They contemplated kidnapping her, but the risk of the king discovering their plot deterred them. Fear of the ring's latent powers further complicated their plans. In a quiet moment of reflection, Nashiraba, unaware of the looming threat, continued her work, her spirit undeterred. "They may plot and scheme," she whispered to herself, the ring glinting in the dim light. "But as long as I wear this ring, I carry my father's courage and the truth of my actions." The queen and the elders realized that any direct attack might backfire, given the ring's mysterious power. They needed a subtler, more insidious approach to strip Nashiraba of her protective charm, without alerting the king or invoking the ring's wrath. In the palace, a dangerous plan was brewing. Two of the elders, driven by desperation, proposed a bold attack on Nashiraba, believing it was the only way to diminish her growing influence. They secretly bribed her bodyguards, promising riches if they would abandon her during an ambush. The plan was set. The bodyguards would desert Nashiraba as she journeyed to meet the commoners. However, the elders underestimated the loyalty of her guards. Upon receiving the bribe, the bodyguards feigned agreement, but immediately reported back to Nashiraba, disclosing the entire plot. Moved by their loyalty, Nashiraba swiftly informed the king, and together they prepared a counter-strategy. On the day of the supposed attack, as Nashiraba traveled the usual path, her guards seemingly fled at the sight of the attackers, but within moments they returned, not alone, but with a strong contingent of the royal guard. The ambushes were swiftly overpowered and captured. Under duress, the assailants confessed that they were hired by the two plotting elders. The truth unveiled, the king ordered the elders' arrest. Facing their fate, they admitted their guilt in the palace court. Nashira, wielding her symbolic axe of vengeance, was chosen to execute the traitorous elders. As she delivered the fatal blows, she whispered solemnly, "Tell my father in the afterlife, his daughter upholds justice." Her actions only heightened her esteem among the people and the king, who now relied heavily on her counsel. However, as her fame soared, so did the resentment among some. The remaining elders, now fearful and cautious, convened secretly. Despite their previous failures, the queen stirred the pot once more, insisting, "This girl is not done with us. We must seize the ring if we are to survive her justice." Their resolve hardened. They plotted one final, desperate attempt to break Nashira's power. In a crucial palace meeting attended by the king, the elders, and Nashira, the queen unveiled a cunning plan. She reminded everyone of how she had taken Nashira under her wing when she first arrived as a slave. "Now that you're of age and ready for marriage, it's time for you to return the golden ring I gave you," the queen proposed smoothly. "Your future husband will surely want to give you one of his own." Nashira, caught off guard by the request, stammered, "What ring are you talking about? This ring was given to me by my mother." Realizing her mistake, she had previously told the queen it was from her slave master. She quickly corrected herself. "No, I mean, it was my master who gave it to me." The queen seized the moment, her voice dripping with feigned confusion. "Did you just say your mother gave you the ring?" Nashira, now flustered, tried to clarify. "No, it was not my mother. I misspoke. It was indeed my master who gave me this ring." The elders jumped in, their tone accusatory. "You just said your mother gave it to you, and now you claim it was your slave master. Which is it? Stop this nonsense and hand over the ring to the queen." Caught in her own tangled words, Nashira had inadvertently paved the way for the queen to take possession of the ring. The king, observing the unfolding drama, felt unable to protect Nashira given her inconsistencies. With the ring finally in her hands, the queen smirked triumphantly. Overwhelmed with emotion and betrayal, Nashira cried out to the assembly, "You are all corrupt. Do you think I don't know your deeds? You murdered my father, Mr. Awuah, and seized his properties. Now, seeing what his daughter has achieved, you scheme to bring me down, but I have exposed your corruption to the king." Despite her emotional outburst and the accusations, the queen and the elders remained unmoved, convinced they had finally neutralized Nashira. But Nashira, though momentarily defeated, knew the battle was far from over. Her resolve hardened. She vowed silently, "This is not the end. Justice will prevail." In a heated moment fueled by fear and suspicion, the queen ordered the guards, "Take Nashira away. She's lost her senses. Imprison her tonight and remove her from the palace at dawn." The guards nodded, reluctantly dragging Nashira away as she protested her innocence. Alone in his chambers, the king wrestled with doubt and guilt. What if she truly is Awuah's daughter? He pondered, his voice echoing in the empty room. Her presence has brought peace where there was only chaos. Perhaps she speaks the truth. Meanwhile, the queen convened a secret meeting with the elders. "She knows too much," one elder whispered. "If she stays, our power and fortunes are at risk." They devised a plan to discredit her, labeling her as unstable, and plotting to end her life discreetly once she was expelled. "Tomorrow, we will also send that cursed ring to the fetish priest," the queen declared, resolving to rid themselves of the source of Nashira's power. The next morning, the queen gazed at the golden ring. "What if the priest turns the ring's power against us?" she mused aloud. "Or what if I wore it myself? Could I control the kingdom?" Curiosity overcame her, and she slipped the ring onto her finger, murmuring, "Let's see the power you hold." Almost immediately the ring constricted, squeezing painfully tight. The queen gasped, her eyes widening in fear. "Help! Remove this at once!" she cried, struggling to pull the ring off. But it was futile. The ring seemed to feed on her panic, tightening further. Servants rushed in, trying to assist, but the ring was relentless. "It's punishing me," the queen realized, her voice trembling. "I thought I could control its power, but it controls me." The agony caused by the tightening ring was unbearable for the queen. She dashed into the throne room, where the waiting elders were discussing the transfer of the ring to the fetish priest. But as she entered, she collapsed, crying out in torment, "Leave me! I will confess everything." In front of everyone, breathless and desperate, the queen spilled the truth about the conspiracy to kill Awuah, detailing every crime she and the elders had committed. The king, stricken with regret and sorrow, immediately ordered the release of Nsarpong's children. As Nashira walked in, the queen, in her agony, pleaded, "Please, remove this ring. It tortures me." Nashira, with a gentle touch, freed the queen from the ring's torment. She slid the ring off the queen's finger and placed it on her own. Nashira then recounted the entire saga to the king, including the fate of her mother and elder Sarpong. The king was furious and prepared to order the execution of the queen and the corrupt elders. However, Nashira proposed, "No, let them be imprisoned until my mother and elder Sarpong can witness their punishment." Her request was granted, and Sarpong's children were appointed as new elders, symbolizing a fresh start. Months later, amidst these turbulent times, the king, moved by Nashira's strength and virtue, married her, crowning her as the new queen. Although Nashira held no love for the king, her heart belonged to Minta, elder Sarpong's youngest son, with whom she shared a secret affection. Their hidden relationship continued, even as the king, unknown to all, was impotent, battled a mysterious illness. Eventually, the king succumbed to the disease, leaving behind a legacy overshadowed by secrets and a kingdom in the hands of a queen with divided loyalties. As we bring this tale to a close, Nashira's life took a turn that intertwined her fate with Minta, elder Sarpong's youngest son. Pregnant with Minta's child, Nashira declared that the late king was the father, a statement that clouded her ascent to power with whispers and suspicion. 2 years following the king's mysterious death, she married Minta, and as foretold by the ancient fetish priest, she became the regent king, a role that came with both power and profound challenges. The prophecy that the death of Awuah would lead to the end of the king's lineage had indeed come to pass. It was a bitter reminder of how vengeance, once set into motion, can echo through generations, reshaping destinies and bringing about drastic changes in governance and leadership. In a significant gesture of reconciliation and triumph, Nashira invited elder Sarpong and her mother to the palace to witness the execution of the queen, the fake fetish priest, and the corrupt elders who had once plotted against her family. This moment was not just about retribution. It was a powerful testament to the restoration of hope, reputation, and dignity. Elder Sarpong, despite the joy of seeing his son ascend to such heights alongside Nashira, felt the lingering sorrow of his wife's untimely death, a stark reminder of the personal costs of political strife. Viewers, I would be glad to know your opinion on this. There was a rumor that Nashira deliberately poisoned the king. Do you believe this view as well? The story of Nashira teaches us about the dangers of greed and hatred and the destructive cycle of vengeance. These forces can corrupt the heart and lead to endless turmoil, affecting not just the perpetrators, but also generations to follow. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Ananse's web of tales. Your engagement and comments from across the globe bring these stories to life. Please share with us where you are watching from, subscribe to our channel, and continue to explore the rich tapestry of tales we have to offer. Remember, every story holds a lesson, and every lesson shapes a life.